Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Sports Shorts Daily. Ronnie Rants alongside Tommy Chrysan. TK joining us over at Tremonti's Meat and Seafood in Baton Rouge. I'm in an undisclosed location presented by the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame. Go to lasportshall.com. And, of course, we're presented by the Bears Casino, our presenting sponsor, all things sports shorts. Well, yesterday, the Sugar Bowl did finally happen down in New Orleans. I was there. Hunter McCann, obviously a part of our Sports Shorts radio team as well, on Saturday was there. And we saw a surprising thing happen, Tommy, and that was Notre Dame not just beating Georgia, but the spread. The 23-10 was the score. The fact that Georgia literally couldn't get the ball in the end zone on offense, struggled mightily, and the fact that Notre Dame's defense was as good as it was, and the speed of Notre Dame, the quarterback, a receiver, running back, like they had some pressure on the edges against Georgia, which I thought surprised myself and others that watched that game. But now Notre Dame wins. We know what the Final Four looks like. Notre Dame will take on Penn State in Miami at the Orange Bowl. And the big game, Ohio State, Texas, will take place at Jerry World. Texas, a six and a half point dog, basically at home. And Notre Dame, a 1.5 favorite. Is that what you got on that one?
Yeah. Yep, that's correct.
What's your takeaway of yesterday's Sugar Bowl?
I mean, Georgia couldn't run the football. And I think playing with the backup quarterback became a little bigger story than I might have thought it would have been. I thought he'd be good or whatever, but there's a reason he's the backup because he wasn't as good as the starter, okay? But I think Notre Dame controlled that game. The end of the first half, start of the third quarter was the difference in that game. But Notre Dame was flying all over the field, made some mistakes, but Georgia made more mistakes. And Notre Dame deserved to win that game and advance. And, I mean, Georgia not running the football, I think, was a big surprise with that huge offensive line. Notre Dame having one of their best defensive linemen injured and out for the rest of the playoffs. I think that might have been a bit of a surprise. And then, Stockton threw some good balls for Georgia. He hit some really nice passes, but there were other times when you can't run the ball, and then Notre Dame kind of figured that out, and Notre Dame was a better team.
Well, Stockton threw for over 200 yards, had a touchdown, but you go back to 29 carries for 2.1 yard average running the football for Georgia. That just was the difference. I thought Stockton played well enough to win the game. They just didn't run the football, and you got to credit Notre Dame to that. Their mindset, I think, was the exact same as Penn State's was against Boise. We're going to take away the run. We're going to make Boise beat us through the air. We're going to make Georgia beat us through the air, and they weren't able to do that. I thought let me tell you a story. I had the ultimate better sweat yesterday. The ultimate better sweat, Tommy. I'm there in the stadium watching the game. It's 0-0 as they go to the second quarter. Now, I had a little small going into the game. I was pulling for Georgia because I had a little small wager. If Georgia wins the national championship, my $25 turns into like $300. Okay, so I'm pulling for Georgia to win the national championship, although I didn't feel very good about it. Whatever, especially with the backup quarterback. So going into the game, I'm Georgia. Well, now it's 0-0 going into the second quarter, and I'm there in the stadium. I'm watching the game. I'm watching the line of scrimmage. I'm seeing that it's 2 yards in a cloud of dust, 3 yards in a cloud of dust for both teams, right? And they're both playing pretty conservative. Notre Dame doesn't like to throw the football anyway. Their quarterback's a runner. Georgia's taking care of the football because they got an unproven quarterback making his first start, so they're going to protect him with short throws and bubble screens and crap like that. So I'm like, bro, what's the over-under? Let me go live bet this thing. Let me see what the over-under is. It's 34.5, Tommy. 34.5 is the live bet. So I fire. Georgia's up. So I waited till Georgia was up 3-0. Georgia kicks the field goal. They're up 3-0. The live bet was 34.5. I take the under with a good size bet, and I take a little on Georgia plus. I think they were plus 2.5 or minus 2.5. They're up 3-0. I'm like, Notre Dame's not going to be able to throw the damn football. They're not going to be able to score this. And I said, Georgia's going to win 12-9. Like that was my score prediction right then and there, 12-9. was sitting next to some Notre Dame people, and I was like, Georgia's going to win 12-9. This is a 12-9 game right here. Ain't nobody scoring touchdowns. This is a Notre Dame pops a big throw. Next thing you know, it's 3-3. I'm like, okay, I'm 3-3, Tommy. Couple minutes to go, minute to go, feeling good. Then all of a sudden, Notre Dame, bada boom, bada bang, 6-3. We're 6-3 with 30 seconds to go to halftime. I'm like, bro, where am I going to, am I going to get the crab meat on top for dinner? Am I going to get a new, custom shirt? What am I going to do? I'm up 6-3, 30 seconds to go before halftime. My 9 points in the first half. I'm not sweating 34 and a half. This is going to be beautiful. Then all of a sudden, Georgia, for some reason, decides with Stockton at quarterback, making his first start ever, with 30 seconds to go in the first half, 80 yards away, we're going to throw the football? Like, what are we doing? And he gets sacked, fumbles. They recover inside the 10. First play touchdown. Now, instead of me going to the locker room with Notre Dame up 6-3, now I'm going to the locker room 13-3. And then on the very first play of the second half, I get a kickoff back for a touchdown. Tommy, let me tell you something. When in a college football game, and let's be honest with it, when was the last time you saw a kickoff return for a touchdown and a strip fumble recorded and inside the 10-yard line, right? Not just in the same game, but on back-to-back plays. Okay, like that's what we overcame that, Tommy, and we sweated out a 33 total point victory and hit the under in miraculous fashion. I mean, the fourth quarter was such a sweat; it was unbelievable.
Well, but you ended up with the crab meat, so that's good. That's good. But no, I really thought Georgia would do better. But Notre Dame, you got to give Notre Dame the credit. It pains me to say that. I'm not a big Notre Dame fan, but they got to give the credit. I'm impressed with Coach Freeman when he talks and his comments and he twice he almost ended up at LSU but did not. It just got a big extension at Notre Dame, and they're one of the 4 teams left playing. I don't know that they can beat Penn State. I mean, they beat Indiana, they beat Georgia with a backup quarterback. Maybe that's my dislike for Notre Dame coming out a little bit. But they're a 1.5 favorite. I mean, the wise guys in Vegas pretty much got all these playoff games right. Okay, pretty much got them all right. And they got just barely a favorite in the Orange Bowl against Penn State. I mean, Penn State's got the best tight end in the country, and they play good defense. Might not be a lot of points. 46.5 to over-under in that game, right? Right now, I feel like it's going to be under. And keep in mind, that's a Thursday night game, so quick turnaround for the Irish. But they'll take it. It's the playoffs. You don't need to be motivated.
I definitely like the under on that game, and I would say that I like Penn State on that game. And I say that because after watching Notre Dame, now granted it came against Georgia's defense, which is one of the best defenses in the country. I think Penn State has more ways to move the football and score points than Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame is so one-dimensional with that quarterback run. I mean, speed, handoff, quarterback run, keeper. They don't really throw the ball much. I just think they, against a good Penn State defense, I think they're too predictable, I think, offensively. But give them credit. Georgia had 65% of the crowd, 2/3 of the crowd was Bulldogs. And yet Notre Dame overcame all that. And just there were 3 plays, Tommy. There was the strip fumble where they turned into a touchdown on the very next play with less than 30 seconds to go inside the 10-yard line before half. And then the kickoff return where, the returner broke a Georgia tackle and took it to the sidelines and outran Georgia for that score. I mean, that little sequence of events, the last play of the first quarter, first half, first play of the second half, that's the difference in the ball game. Other than that, it was pretty much even.
Yeah. I mean, you take them 2 plays out, and it is even. But that, you can't do that. It's easy to do that the next morning when we're here doing Sports Shorts Daily. But, Ohio State is the favorite among the 4 teams in Vegas to win the whole title. Big Ten fans, I think you want to hear what I'm about to say. I think it's going to be Ohio State, Penn State. for the national championship over in Atlanta in a couple of weeks. That's my early call. That's what I think now. And of course, we got radio tomorrow, and we got Sports Shores Daily next week to maybe change that up. But that's what it looks like to me as I have watched, pretty much every snap of all these games.
How about the fact that the SEC has one quarter of the field, and right now your prediction is no SEC team makes it to the championship game? Like, I mean, that's going to
Well,
be SEC is going to have to eat some serious crow this year if it's Ohio State, Penn State. I mean, or no matter what, if Texas doesn't make it, SEC is going to eat a lot of crow, but especially if Ohio State, Penn State.
And then you got those who say, well, is that SEC? Is Texas really SEC yet? Yeah, on paper they are, but they haven't been in. But
Right.
they did play at SEC, schedule, but whatever. So, but it's all part of the portal, the NIL, and the way the landscape of college football has drastically changed in the last handful of years. I mean, if you go back to when COVID hit, that's not related to the portal and NIL. In a way, it is because of guys are playing their 7th and 8th year college football. College football, if you go back 10 years, from then to today, the game's 99% different.
100%. And by the way, Notre Dame is not ACC, although they play that ACC, scheduled, so to speak. They get to keep all of their money. So everybody else has got to split their playoff money. And, you mentioned you send a text to the Sports Shorts group, the $14 million each team gets for making it to the semifinals. That goes to the pot. Texas, their money goes to the SEC pot. Ohio State and Penn State, their money goes to the pot. That means teams like Purdue that aren't even doing anything get to share in that revenue. 28 million getting divvied up amongst those teams. But in the Notre Dame's case, all 14 million goes right to that program. Their deal is not to split anything. So,
well,
look, I think the fact if you end up with an Ohio State Penn State national championship game, which you and I both think is most likely to happen, that may push this merger conversation even quicker. And what I mean by that is there's been a lot of talk. Nick Saban was one that even brought it up a few weeks ago on College Game Day that he thinks there's going to eventually be a super conference, 32 teams, 30-something teams that are super conference, and they're going to basically be their own league, if you will. If SEC sort of has this holier than thou kind of we are the big ding-a-ling. Well, if all of a sudden 2 years in a row the SEC doesn't win the national championship and this year potentially gets shut out of a championship game even, I can see a scenario where they're a little more open-minded to, hey, why don't you bring your guys, we bring our guys, and then we pick and choose from a few others and make some sort of conference here.
Well, I definitely think that's going to happen. We just don't know when. I mean, is it too small of a snapshot to make rational changes? But we live in an immediate world due to the internet, due to our smartphones and social media. We live in an immediate world, okay? And so I think you're right. Some reactions are going to be made, and something that big is not going to happen overnight. But I do think they're going to go to the NFL model: 32 teams, 8 divisions of 4 teams. They have an East and a West. Well, come up with some other terms, but I think that's where it's going to go. And then, the Purdues and the Vanderbilts and the, people like that are going to end up on the outside looking in, or they'll have their own thing, go get their own national champion. I mean, we crown an FCS champion. Well, that game's in Texas tomorrow, I think. Montana State and South Dakota State or something. They crown a Division III champ. They crown an NAIA champ. I mean, that's what's going to happen, all driven by money, as we know.
I would love to see. I don't think they will because I think people are going to go for the guarantees and they're not going to agree to certain things that they can't be locked in. But the big boys. But I would love to see an English Premier League soccer format with relegation. Where let's just say hypothetically you have a 30-team Super League. And then you have the next level of 30 teams, the next conference. That way, all your Power 4 teams, and then select others, like Notre Dame and up. And you do relegation, and the bottom 2 teams each, from that 30, whoever finishes 28th, 9th, and 30th drops down, and whoever finishes first and second in the league, goes up. That would be awesome, and it would keep interest in all the levels of football, right? It wouldn't be just about the power 30, let's say.
Right.
If it, even at lesser level, you would have interest because you want to see, well, who's coming up, who's on the verge of coming up, and there's something to play for. They're not just down there.
Well, it's kind of like the PGA Tour. You got guys that are trying to elevate onto the tour, and then you got guys who have to go downward because they don't make enough money or whatever. Same thing. The problem is the NCAA. It's a toothless organization with no leadership and no bite. They got no legal standing, anything like that. So you're going to have a breakaway to get to that, and then let the NCAA go back to.
Yeah, college football already is a breakaway. It has nothing to do with the NCAA. So I don't know that they have to change anything relative to any other sports. This is just simply about football. And they've
Correct.
already done the playoffs and BCS and all that over the years. So it's just, what format do you want to use, and what teams do you want to take, with you to whatever this new landscape is going to look like. But that said, I think what you're going to see in the immediate is, I think you're going to see them make a change next year to where they're going to have the 12 teams get in, and then they're going to seed them 1 through 12 as it's played out this year. The 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th seed are all in the Final Four, which is ridiculous because they're not 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th seed. It is on paper, but clearly Boise and Arizona State wouldn't have been ranked ahead of any of those 4 teams had there been true 1 through 12 rankings.
I agree with you completely, and that'll be lesson learned as we go forward. And they'll make tweaks to it. Ronnie, we've said this several times. When there was a 2-team playoff, they made some tweaks as the years went on. When it was a 4-team playoff, they made some tweaks as it went on, and they're going to have to do it here. I mean, there's no perfect system. Not everybody's going to be happy, but it's obvious that some changes have to be made.
How about Ohio State's performance against Oregon? That is just shocking to me. They were up 31-0 in the second quarter against the number 1 team in the country, undefeated. It's just at a neutral site. I mean, just incredible what Ohio. And look, all the teams that have advanced are all teams that played, in the first round. And there might be something to be said for staying on a routine and staying. They play every 10 days, and as opposed to taking time off and not playing for 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Clearly, that looked like it was somewhat of a factor.
Yeah, I think Ohio State has gotten past the Michigan loss now.
You think?
They certainly look like. Well, but like I always said, they lost to Michigan. Notre Dame lost to Northern Illinois back in week 2 of the season. I mean, it's going to happen. Every Super Bowl champ in the NFL had a loss during the season where you kind of went, "What? How'd that happen?" College basketball, the team that wins the title has some losses early in the year in most cases. Every now and then you don't, but I mean that's just part of it, and this is the system that we have. So if it's like when NIL came around and portal came around. You can embrace it and enjoy it and make the most of it, or you can do something else with your time. Go watch Landman, or go watch Netflix or whatever. But it's just it's just so much craziness. I did have over 50.5 in the Ole Miss game last night, so I ended the day on a good note.
Speaking of Ole Miss, in the Tax Slayer Bowl, Jackson Dart making his last college start of his career. He's already announced he's going pro. He played in the bowl game. He's expected to be a potential first-round pick. He threw for over 400 yards, had, I think, 4 or 5 touchdowns. Granted against Duke, and they had players in the portal and all that kind of stuff. Joel Davis, of course, you can listen to him on Sports Shorts Radio. He usually joins us in the first hour, 10:30 a.m. Most days is when his slot is on our show on Saturdays from 10 to noon. Joel is a huge Jackson Dart guy. He wants the Saints to take Jackson Dart if he's there. He thinks he's going to be a stud in the NFL. I'm not convinced that Jackson Dart is worth top 10 pick, but in this day and age, we value quarterback play over everything else. Guys are inflated. Their talents and abilities are inflated. You take a risk on quarterbacks you don't on other position players. What's your takeaway on Jackson Dart?
I think he's going to do it. I think he's going to. I think he's going to be more like a Jaden Daniels than a Caleb Williams. And Caleb Williams can't play in the NFL, and he won't be there long. But I'm not saying he's going to be as do as well as Jaden Daniels, but I think he's got the intangibles of what an NFL quarterback nowadays has to have. And I think he's going to be successful. I don't always agree with Joel Davis, but I think I'm going to agree with Joel on this one. I think he'll be, I don't think he's going to be the rookie of the year, but I think he's going to play and make a difference in the NFL. I think he's better than Shador Sanders. He's better than Cam Ward. I
Ooh,
mean, he's better than a lot of people.
Shador Sanders. You got him better than
Well, that guy, he's not going to make it. Come on,
Shador.
Ronnie.
Wow, Tommy's got nobody making it in the NFL except Jackson Dart. No, I like Shador Sanders a lot. Who I don't agree with this idea that he's going pro is Milroe from Alabama, the quarterback for the Tide, is going pro. And I'm not convinced that he's ready. And I'm not convinced that he's, I mean, he's a beast of a human as far as a giant man who can run fast and is super athletic. But as far as throwing the football accurately and all that kind of stuff, like he needs more. We're popping that wine before it's time. It needs more marinating and seasoning.
Well, I think it goes back to the word accuracy, which you use a lot. I use it a lot. And in the NFL, that's more important than it is in college. 'Cause in college, guys get wide open. You have a little more room for error. In the NFL, those windows, I remember Derek Beckwith telling the story that one day at practice with the Chargers, he was covering a great tight end, Antonio Gates. Thought he had him all covered up, and the ball got in a little bitty window for the completion. So accuracy, I don't. Milroe's got a strong arm. He's a big dude. He's gonna be hard to get on the ground, even in the pocket. But I don't know about the accuracy. That's what you got. You got to be accurate, and I don't know that he's got enough of that. And everybody can throw one or two nice passes. You and
Right.
I once, every now and then, threw the greatest curveball somebody ever saw, but we couldn't do it enough to keep playing forever. So it's the accuracy thing. I think is going to hurt Milroe.
TK, tell us about Tremonti's.
Well, they got caterings available into the new year. They got a special now. Any meat purchase, you get 10% off any wine or liquor purchase. All your meat and seafood, crawfish coming soon. A little over a week, they'll have some crawfish here. They're famous for that. Live, boiled, get them to go, cater, the whole bit. Tremonti's Meat and Seafood, Jefferson Highway in Baton Rouge, right down the street from Parkview Baptist Church and School. Mike and the staff do a great job. Come get some lunch today, lunch tomorrow. Tremonti's, you'll be glad you did.
So 10% off any purchase? Is that what you said?
Any liquor or wine purchase, if you buy buy one stage, you can get 10% off a bottle of bourbon or a bottle of wine, or buy a chuck roast or buy some bacon. You might do that, but you get a little discount. They try
All
to
right.
get the year going.
Sounds good. All right. Tomorrow morning, Sports Shorts Radio, 10 to noon. We'll be over at Fat Daddy's and Little Daddy's and Plaquemine in God's country. So come see us. They have the best po' boys on the west side. So if you're looking for something to do tomorrow, come check us out for lunch. We'll be there having a great. Looking forward to seeing whatever the po' boy of the month is. We'll tell you about it tomorrow on Sports Shorts
I
Radio.
think it's a tuna melt sandwich or something.
What's that?
It's a tuna melt sandwich or something. Are you a tuna fish fan?
I am, yeah.
I'm picky, but there's certain tuna fishes I really enjoy. A little change of pace kind of thing. I think Subway's got a good tuna fish, but I might have to try. I'm stuck on that roast beef sandwich at Fat Daddy's, but I might have to try the tuna over there tomorrow. Look forward to being there.
That's blasphemy that you brought up Subway. We support local here, Tommy. We support local.
Yeah, okay. Well, I know local guys that own Subway. A good friend of mine owned a Subway for 30 years in Florida. So
nice. All right, Tommy Chrysan, I'm Ronnie Rance. Please like and share this video. Thanks for watching Sports Shorts presented by LaBerge Casino. We'll be back tomorrow for Sports Shorts Radio 10 to noon. Until then, have a good one, everybody.